everyone, and welcome back to Sip and Spin. My name is Skylar, and over here in a Pelican Town Stardew Valley shirt is Brittany.
Hello! This is a variety podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
And we're back. We missed last week because I did not have time, and me and Brittany both fell on the ice, and we were both in a lot of pain.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
Brittany hurt her editing arm, and I twisted a muscle, and so I was like, had to keep trying to stretch it back out and untwist it. It was awful.
Well, how are you now?
I'm good.
Good.
Still don't have time.
Sounds like it, yeah.
But I am good.
Good.
Had a lot of caffeine today.
Uh-oh.
Had a triple shot and a double shot energy drink from Starbucks. You know, the little ones that come in the can, like the Starbucks triple shot. Yeah, I had one of each of those. And then I had a Celsius something. It was like an energy, like a...
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Like a natural energy drink.
Oh, God, girl.
Has 7 vitamins in it, so...
So, hey!
But it turns out drinking your vitamins does not help as much as actually eating.
Yeah, probably.
You can't just replace your vitamins in a drink.
How would the world be different if you could?
But how are you?
I'm good.
She got a haircut. It looks very cute.
I did get a haircut. This is the shortest I've ever had it in my adult life. So it was a weird change. I usually refuse to go short. But I was feeling some type of way apparently. I told her, chop it to my shoulders. She's like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm sick of it. She's like, okay. So we did.
Well, it's very, very cute.
Thanks. It helps the curls, if nothing else. They're much healthier now.
Yeah.
So there's that.
How else have you been? What else have you been up to?
Oh, just the same old, same old. Nothing exciting at all. We've been like, yeah, that whole week without the ice, we were pretty much just homebound. And a few times, like, I had to leave to get my haircut during that. Because of the ice, I will say, jury duty got canceled, so I did not have to do that.
Hey.
But I do have to call every week now, but so far, I've avoided it. I think I just have a couple more weeks to call.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Oh, me and Richard went and saw Infinity Pool, which was a very weird, gross, weird movie.
I have not heard of this.
You wouldn't like it.
Okay.
It was still not as gross as Licorice Pizza, and I still hate that movie, to the very fiber of my being.
I've also never heard of that.
Let's just say that Licorice Pizza is about a couple,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about, like, an adult woman and, like, a teenage boy.
Oh, ew.
And then they made me so mad. Like, it was the first movie I've ever watched, like, through my hands. And people, like, it was, like, nominated for Oscars. Like, it was just, like, everyone loved it. I'm like, how me and Richard hated this fucking movie.
Oh, I do think I remember you telling me about that. I think I blocked out you telling me about it, but I think now that you say that, I'm like, what?
So much. And then this movie that we just saw wasn't as gross as that, and this one that we just saw involved adult breastfeeding. So, just think about that. This one was less gross than that one.
Both of those sound ick.
No, Infinity Pool was gross, but, like, it was supposed to be. It's, like, a body horror movie.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, I would not like that at all.
There was a lot of gore, but still wasn't as gross as I was expecting it to be. It was more like, it was one of those movies where we were sitting at the theater, and halfway through it, I was like, I genuinely do not know where this movie is going. Like, I had theories, and then they got squashed at the halfway point. I was like, I'm just here for the ride at this point then, because I don't know what the fuck is going on. And then towards the end of the movie, my only thought was, yeah, this is why you don't make friends as an adult. Shit like this happens. It's just better to be a loner. Now I know, thank you.
Body horror freaks me out.
Yeah, this one was trippy. Yeah, there was the one scene with it was like a giant orgy, and all these people were on drugs, and there was just one scene, I guess because they were on drugs, but someone's nipple just got, like, pulled, like, this far out, because, like, it was body horror, like, it was just,
yeah.
That was the whole point. I was like, oh god, that's the worst part. I didn't like that. gonna do without you?
Not shit.
Working.
Working, and that is about it.
Making that money.
Barely have time to, like, do anything, like, for me. Like, I'll get home, and I'll, like, turn on, like, a video or something, and halfway through the video, I fall asleep. And I'm just, like, wake up and do it again the next day.
Well, Alex, you have a day off coming up.
Yes, in 1 week. I get a day off in a week.
We can even not record that day if you want it all to yourself.
Well, depending on the category, it'll be fine. Because if it ends up being culture, travel, language, we may need another week.
Or just spending it.
Yeah.
No one has to know.
We will edit it out.
I always do. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's like, if you're ever wondering why we've never done the same episode 2 times, or the same category 2 times in a row, it's not because we haven't spun the same category 2 times in a row.
It's true.
Like I said, we're a variety podcast. We gotta keep it varied.
Gotta keep it fresh and funky. Anything else to discuss?
There were 2 fights this weekend, 1 on each night. I thought I was gonna get hit last night.
Oh no.
It was kind of scary.
Do you want to share?
Oh, so this guy, I guess, got in a fight because his ex-girlfriend was like, and they've been broken up for like a year. His ex-girlfriend was like talking to one of her friends who was a guy. They're not together at all, like, but he was drunk and like freaked out and like hit the guy that she was talking to. And they were like, you know, went and grabbed him and were throwing him out and everything, and like had to hold him back like by the arms because he was still trying to like swing. And then he's like yelling and angry, and I'm like sitting there by the door because that's where I'm doing the cover charge, and he just looks at me and is like yelling and still trying to like break out. And I was like, oh, please don't let him go, because I think he's going to hit me, and I didn't do anything.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I've just been sitting here. But it was a bit freaky. I was like, I'm just chilling. I don't know why you're looking at me and yelling at me. Like, I didn't do anything.
Angry men are always scary. Don't you like it?
Yeah, and then I think there was another fight. I don't know what happened, but Measy shut down the bar early because I guess something else happened, and I was like, well, shit.
Dang.
But people don't know how to fucking act.
Not these days.
Yeah, gotta love drunk people. And this one guy, it was so weird. So last night, this girl got angry at me because her boyfriend was paying the cover charge, and he handed me a 10, and I went to go grab his change, and he goes, oh, just keep the change. And I was like, are you sure? Because, like, I've got the change out. Like, I can give you $3 real quick. And he goes, yeah. And his girlfriend goes, no, give him his change back. And I went, okay.
I was trying.
I was going, I'm like, it's right there. And so I got the $3, handed it to him, and I said, okay, here you go, $3. Or $3 back, and gave him a stamp. And she looks at her and she goes, how much did you give her? And he goes, $10. And she goes, oh, okay. Like, believe it or not, I know how to count. If someone hands me $10 and the cover charge is $7, that means they get $3 back. It's not hard. I was like, and her little 5'2" self, I was like, really? You're gonna get that angry at me? I was like, 1, I tower over you, and 2, like, I'm sorry your boyfriend was drunk, and also happens to be a nice drunk. Like,
gotta love people.
and then this one guy, I was like, it was him and his friend, and I told his friend first, because he came in first, and I was like, it's gonna be $7, and he goes, $7, and he's like, is there a cover charge? I go, yeah, we have a cover charge every Friday and Saturday, and he goes, oh, okay, and he starts getting out his stuff, and I give him his change back, everything's fine, stamp his hand, and then I turn to his friend, and I'm like, it's gonna be $7, and I, like, had my hand out, and he holds his hand out for me to stamp it, and I was like, you have to pay me first to get a stamp. I need $7. And he takes my hand and goes like this, and I went, like, I had to rip my hand away. I was like, this is weird. And I went, sir, you need to give me $7.
Oh, no.
It was so weird.
Is he, like, about to kiss your rings or something?
I don't know what he was doing, but he, like, grabbed my hand and, like, brought it, and I was like,
no. None of that.
And, oh my god, there are so many drunk men who just, like, will come up to me, like, while I'm taking cover charge, and I'm like, can I buy you a drink? And I'm like, no, I'm working. And they're like, can't you drink while you work? And I'm like, I can, but I'm not going to, and I don't want one from you.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I had one guy grab at my clothes one night. Like, he flipped up the bottom of my skirt, and I'm like, luckily I was wearing tights. That was weird. And then I stood up to take someone's cover charge, and he pulled down my turtleneck, and I, like, slapped him.
It was assault?
It was so, like, I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, he's this grown-ass man, like 50 years old, and he was, like, talking to me, and he was like, yeah, he was like, get me out of this situation, like, these drunk girls keep trying to talk to me, and blah, 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 and I'm like, okay. So I pretend to have a conversation with him to get him out of that situation or whatever, and then he just will not leave me alone the entire night. Like, he keeps standing in front of me while I'm trying to watch the door. He's like, are you mad at me? I feel like you're mad at me. I'm like, you are a grown man. I was like, why are you acting like this?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and then there's one night I stood up to take someone's cover charge, and I was like, hey, it's going to be $7. And he was already wasted. And he, like, puts his hand right here, and he goes, can I kiss you? And I went, no. And my dad came up, and he was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah. I was like, that was just really weird. He was like, okay, because I saw you push him. I was like, if I need to kick him out, I will. I was like, I think it's fine. People are so, I'm just sitting here, like, I sit there, and I try and have this, like, mean look on my face, like, so people don't fuck with me, and then they still do. And I'm like, I don't know
think you can do a mean look, you're gonna be honest.
Well, in my head, I think it's a mean look, because I will just sit there with my arms folded, like, staring at the door, like,
yeah.
Does that not look mean?
No.
Oh.
But you're trying.
And people will give me the $7 and give them their change. I'll stamp their hand and I'll be like, okay, thank you. And they're like...
Yeah, that really scared them off.
Yeah. The one guy was like, you're always so smiley. And I was like, because he comes every single day, or every single weekend, Friday and Saturday. He's been there for like the past 3 weeks. Like, and he's just like, you're always so smiley. And I'm like, I try.
See? People know you're smiling.
Yeah. I can't help it.
People are gross.
Yeah, those are all the stories I have, are just the weird shit that happens to me at the bar.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great.
No, and if it wasn't for the fact that I was working there, that would be like things that would be like, okay, then I'm not coming back. Like, I won't come back for like a couple weeks or like a couple months usually. Like, when people get weird like that, I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to come back for a couple months. Like, maybe they'll be gone by then, be burnt out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we can get into it, because it's been 20 minutes.
I mean, this is how this usually goes.
Yeah.
So what is our topic?
So, we got movies, and it was my turn to pick. So, I picked Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because I had never heard of it, or never seen it. It just popped up on, like, Hulu one day while I was scrolling through, and I was like, sure. I was like, it looks artsy.
I had heard of it because it was highly acclaimed, but I had never seen it yet.
And then what are we drinking?
I was in charge of the drink, and so I knew I wanted to match it to the movie. Problem was, I didn't watch the movie until this morning. And Richard was at the liquor store while I was watching the movie, and I was like, So I was like, okay, it's a French film. I'll make a French 75. So I was like, just get me prosecco and gin and lemons, because that's what's in a French 75. And so he did that, and he didn't get me lemons, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll think of something, because I was like, I don't just want to do prosecco and gin because you would probably hate it. I would love it.
See, I like prosecco, but I hate gin.
Yes. So then I was like, what can I do? And we had frozen fruit, and I was like, okay, so what if I make like a mixed fruit syrup for it? So I did that, because I was like, oh, because the movie's a little fruity, I'll make it a fruity twist, you know? Like, so yeah, it's a French 75 kind of. So it's prosecco and gin still, but then instead of just simple syrup and lemon juice, it is just a mixed berry syrup with a little bit of tonic water and some frozen strawberries to act as ice cubes. So I don't know if it's any good.
Well, let's try it.
That's what it is.
Cheers.
It's tart.
It's not bad.
It's like, can you drink it?
Yes, I can drink it, but I can also taste the gin.
So you really, I just take the prosecco.
It's like, I can taste it right here, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah. It is cheap gin also, so it's not even like good gin.
That's the kind of gin I buy too, because I know I don't like gin, so I'm not going to spend $50 on a bottle of gin.
See, I will, but I did not today.
Oh, this isn't for anything important, but I was going to try and dress Valentine's-y today, because when we record YouTube after this, the video will go out on Valentine's Day. But then I remembered it was going to be a past recording, and so I could not change my outfit in a past recording. So
You still could dress Valentine's. I could have made it go out on Tuesday. I don't even think I'm out. I gotta be honest. I forgot it was Valentine's Day.
And then I was going to order you something for Valentine's Day and be like, Happy Valentine's Day. But then I only remembered it was going to be Valentine's Day today. And I was like, there is nothing I could order that will be here in time.
I mean, yeah, that does make it a little harder.
I was like, oh, this would be cute. This would be cute. And then I was like, there's nothing I can get.
Not in 5 hours.
I don't think any delivery service is that fast. I would actually have to go somewhere.
Just the thought that counts.
So happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, technically when this comes out, it will be already past. But
Yeah.
hopefully you had a good Valentine's Day. Or if it was just another Tuesday, I hope you had a kick-ass Tuesday.
Yeah, there you go. Check out our YouTube video.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any background?
I do.
Okay. I do too, but I'll just let you run with it. And if I have anything new, I'll add to it.
Alrighty. Now, I don't know how to pronounce things, so we're just gonna have to be okay with that.
Okay.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire was directed and written by Celine Sciamma
Yeah.
and released in 2019. The movie was rated 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 95% on Metacritic. It was nominated for 36 different awards and won many of those, including the Queer Palm at Cannes, becoming the first film directed by a woman to win the award. And I was like, that is noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other background is the director, Celine Sciamma, and lead actress Adele Haenel have collaborated many times and used to be in a romantic relationship, with Adele proclaiming her love for Celine on stage after accepting an award. And I was like, aw. But even though they are no longer involved romantically, they still have a powerful connection, especially in film, and they hope to continue working together for a long time. But Celine also said, quote, I really try to figure out each film as a kind of manifesto for something, and of course I would love working with Adele again. Maybe we'll write something together that she will direct. There's a lot of possibilities, but you know what? When you have that kind of trust, you don't have to dream. You can go through your present without worrying. End quote. And I thought that was very cute.
That's cute. Do you also have that, for this movie, Adele's character was written with her in mind?
No, I did not.
Yes. So the character of, is it Heloise?
Yeah, that's how, yeah.
Was written with her in mind to play
No.
it. Because they were a couple before.
When you pull up the movie, this is what it says it's about. In 18th century France, a young painter, Marianne, Naomi Merlan, is commissioned to do the wedding portrait of Heloise, played by Adele Haenel. Day by day, the two women become closer as they share Heloise's last moment of freedom before the impending wedding. That is all I have as far as background goes.
Okay. I don't have I have everything you said, but then just a little bit more. Where it won the Queer Palm at the Cannes, it also won at the same festival. Celine and the film won the award for Best Screenplay for it as well, which is always a big deal at Cannes. It was chosen by the National Board of Review as one of the top 5 foreign language films of 2019. The film was voted the 30th greatest film of all time in Sight and Sound 2022 Critics Poll. And then Sight and Sound is a British monthly film magazine published by the British Film Institute. The paintings by the character Marianne throughout the movie were all created by painter Helen Delmer. And then the actress worked very closely with her throughout, to get to know, a painter, how to portray a painter. And then when you see the hands of her in the movie, that's actually hands, and then she painted for 16 hours every day during the course of filming, which is a long time.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And then there's also Celine, the director. She also directed Girlhood, Tomboy, and Water Lilies. And then she was also the writer for the screenplay for the very popular, like, animated short, My Life as a Zucchini. And then she also did the screenplays for Tomboy and Girlhood, and she was also the writer for Water Lilies as well. And it's rated R, and it's 2 hours and 1 minute long.
Yes. Now, I just need to double check myself really quick, because we both said her name very differently.
Marianne? Or Helen? Whose name?
Oh, see, I had Marianne written down, but then I thought you said Marina, and I was like...
I might have
I
by
was like-
accident, but I have
like,
Marianne
oh, shit.
written.
I was like, because I have Marianne written down everywhere in these notes.
I have Marianne, Heloise, and Sophia.
Yeah.
Or
well,
Sophie.
Sophie. I did not know Sophie's name until, like, the end of the movie, and had to go back and change the handmaiden all to Sophie, because I was like, I have no idea. Still don't know what the lady of the house's name was. I call her the lady of the house throughout my entire notes.
I think on IMDb it is something like that.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's just like the lady something.
Okay.
I don't even know. Yeah.
I was just like, the lady of the house.
No, yeah.
And then to start off the movie, I was like, I already love the setup. I love when a movie starts and then something happens and it goes into a flashback.
Yeah.
I love a good flashback setup. So Marianne is teaching her class and someone asks about the portrait that is in the background because one of her students took it out of storage.
Well, she is teaching and she sees it and she gets visibly upset.
Yeah.
And then she's like, who did this?
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, well, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's a painting I did a long time ago. And they're like, what's it called?
Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes. And then we get flashbacks.
And I was just like, wow, those waves are really loud. Like, I had my headphones in because I was watching on my phone because my computer still is not fixed. And I was just like, it was just like loud waves all of a sudden. I was like, oh, okay.
They were very intense. And then my first note was just like, oh, just diving straight into the ocean, eh? Great.
Yeah, she just jumped right in after that crate.
And then I was like, those men could never.
Yeah.
Because they did not give a single fuck.
No,
and I was
not
like,
at all.
what the hell?
And then they just left her on the shore, and she was like, where do I go? He was like, towards the trees. Like, what kind of direction was that?
Like, I'm pretty sure they were paid to charter her there. Like, they could
Yeah.
have shown a little fucking care.
At least tried.
But it was fine. And then the whole time, like, that happened, I was just like, okay, I know that there's canvases in there, and they have to be fucking ruined. Like,
Yeah, see, and
Ain't
I
no
was
way.
worried that they were paintings. I was like, if they were already done, like,
Yeah.
finished paintings, oh my goodness. But yeah, they definitely were canvases. And then she just set them up by the fire, but they were very wet when she opened that crate.
but and I was just like, I don't know.
I don't know that would work.
I was like, is this, I don't know. They were dunked in the ocean, man. Maybe the canvas was made out of sterner stuff in the 18th century. I don't know.
Yeah, and she and the canvases were just sitting by the fire trying to warm up and dry out. She just smoked a pipe, and I was like, good for you.
I don't know, I was just sitting naked in front of a fire, smoking, a vibe, and it was a great shot. Like, this whole movie was very beautifully shot, I'll just go and say, but that shot was like one of the first ones I was like, ooh, that's a nice shot.
Yeah.
Like the lighting, the centering, it was all very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then so after all that, then she goes into the kitchen, she helps herself to food, and she's talking to Sophie, who, that's what we know her name will be, but the handmaiden, basically, talking about the sister.
Yeah.
Who died, and I was like, wait, did he murder her?
See, my first thought was like, I immediately interpreted it as she killed herself.
Oh, see, I went like she was murdered.
Oh.
And now this other sister does not want to marry him because he's a bad guy. And then I go, oh, okay, never mind, because then it was explained. And I was like, still, really seems like neither of them want to marry this man.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not a good look.
Not a good look for this Milanese man.
Yeah.
Is that because
Milanese.
because he's from Milan.
Yeah.
So I think
seems
Milanese.
like what we're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So the gist of it is, Heloise she was at convent, but then her sister killed herself supposedly, and she was supposed to be married off to this guy in Milan. But now, since that fell through because of her death, her mom is now making Heloise go through with it.
Yes.
And she does not want to. So she keeps, like, refusing to sit for a portrait because I guess the way they do it is the portrait has to be sent off to the intended, and if they like it, they go through with the wedding or something like that. Right? Was that the vibe?
I didn't even pick up on that. I just thought there was just, like, portrait paint. I was just like, this is just what they're doing.
I thought, like, that was the reason. Like, maybe not, but it just, that whole conversation with the lady of the house or something, I wasn't sure.
See, the only thing I was like, as Marianne is exploring the house, she finds a canvas with the face of Heloise ruined on the painting. And then when Marianne sits down with the lady of the house, she finds out that Heloise refused to pose and refuses the marriage. She also finds out that the other part of her job is to not let Heloise know she's a painter, and that she's just her walking companion because Heloise has not been allowed out of the house for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah. Because her mom is, like, scared she's also going to kill herself.
Yeah.
Basically, which is, like, if that's an issue, I feel like they need to look into that as a family. But, okay. Just hire someone to be your daughter's friend. Secretly paint her then.
Yeah, that's a weird take on how to solve that problem.
And, like, it also felt like the whole reasoning also was just the mom wanted to go back to Milan. And it's just like, girl, just go.
Yeah, it's... You have a very nice house. You clearly have money. Like,
just do it.
You can go to Milan.
Heloise will stay here on the cliffs. Let her be free.
It's like if you wanted Heloise to, like, not be bored, if you just didn't marry her off and let her have fun in France, she probably wouldn't be bored. But you've kept her trapped in the house for the past 3 weeks. So yeah, she's going to be bored. I would also be bored if I was trapped in a house for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so Marianne gets her job assignment, basically, is like, hey, observe her sneakily, and then paint her in your free time. So then we get their first interaction together, which is just Heloise bolting at a cliff.
Yeah.
And her being real scared this bitch is about to die on her.
It's like it's her first day on the job.
She did not sign up for this shit. But she didn't. She was just being a little cheeky.
Yeah, it was like Heloise's first sentence to Marianne is that she's dreamt of running for years. I would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, do we need to talk?
It's like, are you good? And then she just turns and she's like, she was like, do you have a book? And Marianne's like, yeah. And she's like, can I borrow it? Okay.
She's not around people much, I feel like.
But I was like, but then also at the same time, I'm like, that's my love language right there. Like,
borrowing.
Yeah, sharing books. Absolutely. And then on their second walk, they sit down in the sand together, and Heloise wants to go into the sea. But because at first she just said, I want to bathe. And I was like, okay. And then she looks at it, and I was like, she means go swimming. I was like, she wants to swim. And then Marianne was like, do you know how to swim? And Heloise was like, I don't know.
We'll find out.
And that's when Marianne pulls out her sketchbook while Heloise is walking around and draws her hands. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on their third walk, they talk about Heloise's sister and the marriage, and then Heloise's time in the convent. Marianne Marianne says that she doesn't know if she will ever marry, and she may possibly take over her father's business, which is like, painting, because her father painted the portrait of the lady of the house.
Yeah.
And Heloise says that Marianne will never understand her because Marianne gets to choose, and Marianne says she does understand. Marianne then that same day suggests to the lady of the house that Heloise should go alone because she's angry and not sad. And I was like, still could not be a good idea for her to be alone, but okay. And then the lady of the house says she knows her anger, and all she wants is for Heloise to have a better life, and that she knows Heloise will be happier in Milan. And I was like, I don't know about that.
You just want to go to
Milan. I think you just want to go to Milan, and you will have a better life and be happier in Milan. And then Marianne is like posing in the green dress and trying to like line up the...
to get the ruffles right.
Yeah, and then Heloise knocks on the door and Marianne has to like quickly get out of the dress. And Heloise is like, do you have any tobacco? Then Marianne tells her that her mother is allowing her to leave the house tomorrow on her own, and then they start talking about music and how Heloise has only ever heard the organ, and she was like, that's a pretty bleak instrument.
Yeah. Never heard of an orchestra, girl.
And then Marianne plays the piano for Heloise, and then they like, Heloise did like the up-down look, like, and I was like, okay.
I mean, 100% this is where she wanted to kiss her.
Yeah, she said later on that it wasn't, that it was a different time, and I was like, no.
No, that's not what she was talking about. Because Marianne asked if it was about the fire, and then
she said no.
And she said no, it was before that, and I think it was here.
Well, she said what it was, and I don't remember when it was.
So that was Marianne's.
Oh.
Marianne's was when she asked if she'd ever known love, and she said, I have, because it was now.
Okay. See, I thought it was Heloise.
Heloise never said hers.
Oh, okay.
But for me, it was here.
It was the piano.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. And then, like, they said the thing about the question, and I was like...
No, I'm pretty sure that was Marianne's answer.
I was like, I refuse to believe it. It has to be the piano. I was like, she gave her the up-down look. And Marianne even, like, had to, like, turn away and, like, did the little, like, head shake, like, snap out of it. And I was like...
It was here for me also.
Yeah. And then Marianne tells Heloise that Milan is a city of music, and it basically ruined the whole vibe.
Yeah, because she started pushing her again, just like her mom.
And then I was like, oh, and I love that Marianne and Sophie are just doing the body posing for Heloise.
I know.
Both of them were just, like, trying to get all the poses down. And then Heloise comes back from her solo walk, and Marianne is, like, trying to hide the green paint on her hand in the kitchen. And she said that she was happier because she got to sing. And she said that she felt the liberty that Marianne spoke about, but she also felt Marianne's absence. Marianne finishes the portrait, and the lady of the house asks to see it. And she asks if she could just, all she wants is to be able to show Heloise first.
Tell her the truth.
And then the lady of the house tells Marianne that Heloise is very fond of her and talks about her a lot. Mm-hmm. And then Marianne goes back to look at the portrait that the first painter tried to do and then set it on fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Very dramatically.
I was like, that seems extreme.
Because at first she was just freeballing it, and I was like, girl, this is an old house. I need you to not.
Yeah, I was like,
And then the next shot, it was in the fireplace, and I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just like watching it catch on fire, and I was like, it's not good. Marianne tells Heloise the truth about why she's there, and since it's her last day there, Heloise decides it's time for her to swim. And then Heloise comes back out of the scene. She's like, she asks if Heloise can swim, and Heloise is like, I still don't know. And Marianne was like, well, you can float.
I have a little chuckle.
And then Heloise is looking at the portrait. She says there's no life to it, and Marianne says that presence is fleeting, and Heloise says that not everything is fleeting. And then she says it's not close to her, which is fine, but she's more bothered by the fact that it's not close to Marianne.
Yeah.
And then Marianne wipes the face away.
Well, at first she was like, I didn't realize you were an art critic.
Yeah.
And like she got under her skin, basically.
Yes.
And then Marianne, realizing that she was right, smears the face, much like the original happened to the other painting.
Yes. And then when the lady comes to look at it, Marianne tries to tell her, she was like, it wasn't satisfactory and she needs to try again. Mm-hmm. And like the lady was like really mad.
Oh yeah, she was like about to send her away and everything.
I was like, sometimes things do take multiple tries.
Yeah.
But the lady tells her that she's incompetent and needs to leave. But Heloise says that Marianne is staying, and she agrees to pose for Marianne.
Mm-hmm. Which is like a big deal.
Yes. And the lady says she's leaving for 5 days and that the painting needs to be done when she returns, and she will be the one to decide if it's satisfactory or not.
Yeah.
And then she leaves, and the painting process begins.
Yes. Painting process, and then just 3 gals vibing.
Yeah.
I just loved all of this when they were there by themselves. But also, okay, let's talk about Sophie.
Yes.
Is that where we're at next?
Yeah, because my next paragraph is Sophie, and then the rest of the paragraph.
Okay. Start us off.
So Sophie is pregnant.
Yes.
And now Heloise and Marianne are trying to help her get rid of it by doing like homemade remedy things.
So that first part she's just running the baby
Yeah.
out on the
I
beach.
didn't understand that either. I was like, what? What is happening? Like, I was like, I figured that's what they were trying to do, but also how does it make any sense
I
whatsoever?
was so baffled by that. And then they go and they're looking for a flower. And like, okay, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, she's just hanging herself. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I was concerned by that, and then, like,
She comes down.
I was like, okay. And then she drinks whatever drink it was, and then gets back up there.
Which again, like drinking tea that induces like that kind of stuff, that makes total sense because people still do that today. But then the running on the beach and then the hanging herself, I was like,
are you just trying to like drop it out? Like, I don't think that's how it works.
So yeah, that was an adventure that I was not expecting.
Yeah, and then Heloise and Marianne are just like sitting down talking, and then she just falls. Sophie just falls.
She just passes out, essentially. Like, it's fine, I guess. But then I was just like, my next thing is just like, yeah, just like 3 women vibing, doing their own thing, getting rid of an unwanted pregnancy, playing cards, painting, embroidery, cooking, drinking. You love to see it.
Yeah.
That was basically all that happens in this scene.
Yeah, I was like, OMG, they're playing slaps. Just vibes. This is a fun scene.
Like, it was cute. It was just like so much chill once the lady of the house was gone. You could see like,
Yeah.
Sophie was happier. Like, she was able to be like, pregnant, don't want to be. And they were like, we got you. We're going to run you to death.
I talk a lot about the painting scenes.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So at one point, Marianne sketches Heloise while she sleeps, and then Heloise wakes up and like does a little pose, and then they smile at each
There's
other.
a little Titanic, draw me like one of your French girls.
Yeah, like, and I was like, aw. And then the next day, after the whole Sophie thing, and then the sleeping and doing a little pose, they're painting again, and Marianne says she can't make Heloise smile, and Heloise says that anger always comes to the forefront. And Marianne was like, yeah, when it comes to you. And then Marianne apologizes for hurting Heloise's feelings, and Heloise says she didn't, but Marianne begins to tell Heloise all of her tells on how Marianne can see her emotion. But then Heloise flips the script and does it to Marianne too. And it was like, in that point you get like, they're kind of like connected and they both understand and like really see each other.
Yeah.
And then they're painting again, and then she tells Heloise to like take off her, like show her throat, and she goes more. And then Heloise is like, you're painting me with my future husband in mind. And she was like, do you ever paint nude portraits? And Marianne was like, women, yes. And she goes, not men? She was like she's not allowed to.
Yes.
Heloise was like, is that a modesty thing? And I was like, I loved the line where Marianne was like, women aren't allowed to paint men nude to keep them from doing great art. And I was like, call them out, Marianne.
She does it secretly.
Yes. And then I was like, love the scenes of them just hanging out, making food, reading out loud to each other, drinking wine. Yeah. I loved the like analysis discussion of Eurydice and Orpheus,
which is a running theme from this point on.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, the 3 of them go to a bonfire. Cute. And then I was like, oh, well, less cute. Their attempts didn't work. Shock. And Sophie is still pregnant.
Yeah, so that was a big bummer. And then it turned into just beach fire a cappella time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, go off.
I would have said it was cute. I was like, oh, but then I was like, no. I was like, it was so weird to me just because.
Do you know what they're saying?
No.
Because I have it translated.
Oh, okay. I was just very unsettled because I was like, one, people around the fire singing equals cult. And also, the build-up stressed me out. Like, when they started, I was like, what is happening right now? I was, like, so tense. I was like, what is this?
So in this festival scene, the women are singing Latin continuously. I'm not going to attempt to do the Latin because that's you, it's not me. But it essentially translates to, I cannot escape, over and over and over again. That's what they're singing.
Gotcha. Well, that would be why I was, like...
unsettled.
It's just
a bunch of women, like... It seems like they, like, just sort of snuck out. Like,
yeah.
It felt very witchy. It felt like, and then you learn they're saying, I cannot escape, over and over, and, like, some of them have smiles on their faces. They're like, it's very bizarre. But then the same chant can be heard over the closing credits of the movie as well. Fun fact.
Gotcha, yeah. No,
but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. I was like, oh, that makes it so much kind of sadder and creepier.
Yeah, and the whole time I was like, someone's about to die. And I was like,
well, what happens instead?
But then I was like, oh, her dress is on fire. And then I was like, there it is, Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
It's the literal scene from the portrait in the beginning of the movie, right there.
But yeah, I was just like, I was convinced someone was about to die. It was on fire.
Sacrifice.
Yeah,
It's gonna be Sophie.
I was like, what's happening?
And then we get a bizarre cut to, well, her dress caught on fire, and then she got tackled and passed out,
Yeah.
essentially.
Like, the way she just, like, collapsed on the ground, I was like...
It wasn't that serious, I don't feel like. She was fine.
I was like, do you know how many layers she had on? It was the 18th century in France. There were at least 3 skirts. Only the top layer was on fire. She just needed to be put out. It was okay. There wasn't even a surface burn on her leg.
So she collapsed, and then it's just a hard cut to her and Marianne scaling a cliff. And I was like, what is happening?
And then it was like another cut to where it was just Marianne, and then she's like peeking around the rocks, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then you just see Heloise.
They scaled a cliffside to like go to a secluded cave. Like, it was just a whole elaborate thing. And for why?
They kissed.
They finally kissed, and then Heloise bolted.
Yeah, she just took off.
So it was like, yay! And it was like, oh.
Yeah, Marianne
She's
gets
scared.
back to the kitchen, and Sophie was like, oh yeah, Heloise isn't feeling well. She's not going to come down for dinner. And I was like, not Marianne hallucinating Heloise like she's dead. I was like, girl, she's in your room.
Ghost Heloise appears to haunt Marianne in the manor. Yeah, that was an interesting thing, but it makes sense later.
Yeah, I was like, she's not dead. I was like, girl, she's in your room right now. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and she was. And then she has a really great line, but I don't know if you have anything before, or you might also just have the line.
I do not have a line. I have the physical thing that happened, like where she lays her head down on Heloise's.
Okay, yeah, this is after that.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter, but basically, like, they come back together, but at one point during all this, I'll let Skylar explain it, Heloise has a line that I love, and she just basically goes, do all lovers feel like they're inventing something?
Yeah.
And I just like, oh, that's a good line.
That line did stick out to me. I did not write it down, but I was like, I did mentally take note of it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like Marianne was laying her head on Heloise's shoulder and they were hugging. Heloise admits she's scared, but she still thought of Marianne. And then she kisses Marianne again, and then they slept together. And then Marianne smiled at Heloise when telling her to get up the next morning so they could take Sophie
To go get an abortion.
And then I was like, OMG, imagine trying to get an abortion while another baby was laying on the bed next to you and trying to hold your hand and touch your face. Like, what the fuck was that?
That was, reality, I guess, for the time. But that was a lot. And then, like, Marianne didn't want to watch, and then Heloise was like, look, like, made her watch. Which, like, I get it, but it was just like, oh my god. And then, after all that, they go back to the manor, and then, Heloise wants to recreate the abortion in a painting.
Yeah, that was so weird. I was like, what?
I mean, I guess it's, like, a whole thing about being, like, seen, or, like, even the ugly bits of life, maybe, or something, because she couldn't sleep, like, she was so hyped, I feel like.
Yeah, but I was like, this is kind of bizarre. I was like...
Yeah, it was very much this traumatic thing that was going for Sophie, but you could tell, like, after all this, like, Heloise was also in some type of way about it all.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably because she was about to be married to a man. Like, she was probably freaking out, and then she's like, we're gonna show this in art. Like, we're gonna make this artistic.
Yeah, see, I saw that, and I was like, I don't think I want to try to analyze what's happening here. I was like, I think I just want to forget it happened.
That was all I could think of, like, that's all I have to say
But
about
I think that was a good analysis. That makes sense. But when it happened, I was like, I'm just going to move on mentally. I don't...
This happened, and here we go. Now let's go to sex armpit drugs.
Yeah, that was so... I was like, okay, they're getting closer and more intimate and talking, and then rubbing a balm on their armpits while they make out.
It was drugs, right?
Yeah, she was like, this lady at the bonfire gave me a plant.
So
and
I
was
assumed that was drugs.
See, but I thought they were gonna like put it in like the pipe or something, you know, and like smoke it, you know, the way normal people do. But then they rubbed it on each other's armpits. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that there was an armpit drug, but all right.
It's literally just my note.
Sex, armpit drugs, sex.
Yeah, that's what happened in that scene. And that's also the one scene Richard sat down on the couch and watched with me, and I was like, you've missed a lot.
Yeah, it's like, how do you explain that out of context to somebody?
Like, he saw the abortion right before, and then he saw that, I was like, this French man, I don't know what to tell you.
That's always the thing. There are things I've noticed in a lot of those that French films are very, they're good. I do like to watch a lot of French films, but a lot of them out of
watch them alone.
Yes, you want to watch them alone, and you want to make sure you watch the whole thing all the way through.
Yes.
Because if you just, like, turn one on TV, and you get, like, you're
bound to start with sex, armpit drugs.
Yeah, like, you're just gonna be stuck in something that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you watch it all the way through and you still don't really understand.
It's the French way.
Respect,
though. For that.
Yeah, respect.
Let me get Ghost Heloise again.
Yeah.
Which is after that, when it's like the second time, you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, she keeps hallucinating Heloise in a white nightgown in dark hallways, and then I realized later on it was not a nightgown, but
yeah, it was very, like, concerning.
Yeah, and then she wakes up Heloise with kisses and tells her that she needs to take a drink, which, yes, after a night of drinking or drugs, it's always good to hydrate.
Yeah.
But then she takes a drink of the water and passes it into Heloise's mouth, and I was like, I don't care how hot a girl is, that cannot happen. That is disgusting.
See, that wasn't even my issue. My issue was drinking while laying down after doing drugs. Highly dangerous. Don't do that, kids.
Oh, yeah, see, and I was just like, ew, gross. I was like, the backwater? Like,
see, I can get behind, like, this lover spit thing, but, like, do it standing up. Like, don't be laying down and tripping. That's how you choke and die. And they have a fight. Or is there something before that?
I just have that Heloise has the paintbrush and is mixing paint.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Heloise says that she likes the painting this time because now Marianne knows Heloise better, or Marianne says that she knows Heloise better, and then Heloise says that maybe Heloise has changed.
Yeah, they have, like, it has more life in it also, you can tell.
But yes, and then they have a little argument.
We'll fight about Heloise's marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have details, they had a fight.
Marianne said she wanted to destroy this painting so she can do another one, which would essentially give them more time together. And they start to argue because Heloise knows she still has to get married, and Marianne is blaming Heloise for it. Marianne wants her to call off the marriage, but doesn't fully understand that it's really not Heloise's decision. It's her mom's.
Yeah.
But when Heloise asks Marianne if she wants her to call off the wedding, Marianne refuses to answer.
She says, what did she say? She says something like,
She says, do you want me to?
She said, do you want me to? Or she said, do you hope, like, something like, she was like, do you hope do you want me to resist it? Or do you hope I resist it? And she's like, yes. And it's like, do you want me to? And then she just didn't say anything, or she said no, or something. I don't know. She asked the same thing twice, but with a different connotation, like active versus passive. Mm-hmm. And she was for the passive, but not with the active, and it pissed Heloise off.
Yeah, because Marianne wanted her to resist, but when
push comes to shove,
but
in that day and time, also, she's like, there was no hope. Mm-hmm. And even Marianne knew that. It was just sad.
So Sophie comes into the room after Heloise has stormed out and says that the lady returns tomorrow, and Marianne says she's ready. But Marianne runs to the beach looking for Heloise and hugs her and begs for her forgiveness, and they both cry.
Yeah. They make up.
And they're wiping each other's tears.
Yeah. And then they're having just another moment together in bed. Marianne's, like, drawing herself a little personal portrait of Heloise. Basically, it seems like it's the same thing that she's just recreating over and over because she has it, like, ingrained in her brain at this point. And then Heloise is like, well, why can't I get a portrait of you or whatever? And she's like, do you want one of me? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, well, what do you want? And she's like, this, her laying naked in bed with her. And so they prop a little mirror up on Heloise, and Marianne draws herself in Heloise's book.
On page 28.
Very sweet.
Yes. And then Marianne, like, keeps trying to keep Heloise awake since it's their last night together. And Heloise tells her she's feeling something new, regret, and Marianne just says, remember. And then they start having, like, pillow talk and talking about their time together. And that's when they have the conversation about the first time they wanted to kiss each other.
Yeah, and Marianne's, I think, was the one, because it's when they were talking with Sophie in the kitchen, and Heloise asked Marianne if she knew love, or if she's known love.
Yeah, because that's when they find out that Marianne also had an abortion before, and that's how she knew what to do.
And then Marianne answered yes, but then we come to this scene, and we learn that she said yes because she was feeling it now for Heloise. And then I swear we never got Heloise's answer, but I put money on it being the piano scene.
See, and I had it like in my notes, and because when she said, "Oh, was it when?" and then Heloise was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh my god, I knew it! I called it! It was the piano." And then they started talking about the "Have you ever known love?" conversation, and so I backspaced the note. I was like, "Well, I guess I was fucking wrong."
Yeah, because she asked that to Marianne, so it would have to be Marianne's answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just skid over that Heloise answer.
But at least I have confirmation that someone else thought it was the piano.
No, yeah.
Because I was certain it was, and then they kept having the conversation. I was like, okay, maybe I was wrong.
Has to be.
But yeah. And then the next morning, they wake up, and Marianne goes downstairs, and the lady of the house was there, and just this guy. I was assuming, I didn't know.
He's the mail carrier, basically, the boatman.
Oh.
So he was taking the painting.
I was like, is this Heloise's fiance? Because he ain't that cute.
No. I'm pretty sure he is who chartered the lady of the house back, and then he's also the one who wraps up the portrait.
Okay, see, I thought that was a different guy than the one that was sitting at the table.
Sure.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, because their manor is like on an island, so everything is by boat with like mail and stuff. So I think he was just like the boatman. They probably feed him.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then the lady says that she likes the painting and gives Marianne her money, and then tells Heloise to come out of the room, and Heloise is like, give me a minute, and she was like, no, I have a gift, and so then they leave.
Yes. And then so you have then Marianne doing all of her goodbyes. Sophie's was very sweet.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I was just like, just take Sophie with you. You were so nice with each other.
I know, I loved it. I was like, they're like her moms. They're like Sophie's moms.
So then, and then we get to Marianne, I keep saying it differently, because I have it written two different ways, I feel like, towards the end. But then we get to her saying goodbye to the lady and Heloise.
Yes.
What's going on?
So I said, Marianne sees Heloise in the white dress that I now see as a wedding dress and not a nightgown.
Yes.
But I was like, and then Marianne says goodbye to the lady and Heloise, and then hugs the lady, and the lady was like, but then she goes to hug Heloise, and she hugged the lady as to not raise suspicion on why she was giving Heloise a hug.
Yes. Even though she did just, like, lick her neck, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a little sus.
A little bit.
But she basically just, like, snuggled her, and then just bolted.
Yeah, and then took off. And then Heloise tells her to turn around. And then she sees her in the dress down the hallway. And then door slam, fade to black.
Which is why did she tell her to turn around? What's the legend they like to discuss?
Oh, yeah, Eurydice and Orpheus, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, she's going to lose. Yeah. Letting go, losing her.
It's very sad. Also, fun fact, in that scene, this is the only time the informal to form of a dress is used versus the formal vous. When she tells her to turn around. That's the only time they're ever informal.
Gotcha.
Thought that was a fun little trivia fact. Especially coming from Heloise.
Yeah.
And it's to basically tell her to turn around and end this because, just like in the legend, their love is essentially over now.
Yeah, it's
very bittersweet.
But that's one of the things I love in, like, foreign, like, romance films is, like, noticing when they are using, like, formal terms or honorifics versus informal or, like, friendly. And I'm like,
it's good.
This is good.
I like it, Picasso.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
And then we get still technically a flashback from the very beginning
Yeah, it's
of
like
the movie, but it's like a forward flash from their time together.
Yeah, because it's like they're back in present time for a second, and then, Marianne and her student are talking, and she tells her student that she's not sad anymore, and she got to see Heloise again later, and then cut to that flashback that's in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So how did she see her again?
So there were technically 2 instances. One was in person, one was not in person. The first one was not in person.
Mm-hmm.
So Marianne was at an art showing where she submitted a painting of Eurydice and Orpheus in her father's name. And she sees a painting of Heloise with a girl who I assumed to be her daughter.
Yes. So it has to be years later.
Yeah.
Because she's like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old child.
See, in my notes I put like a 6 to 7-year-old girl.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an older child. But what else is going on in that painting?
So she's holding a book, and
Yes.
it looks like the book is only, like, she's got her finger, like, holding the book open, and it's not, like, held open to the middle.
No.
It looks like it's held open to page 28.
Yes. A little nod. Oh, so cute.
Yeah, I was like,
She remembers.
I was like, look.
Look at this! This is beautiful!
I was like, look where she's holding the book open. That's at the beginning of the book. You know what's at the beginning of the book? Page 28. It's not that far.
Yes. And then she sees her a second time. They're essentially, as far as we know, the final time up to the present day telling of the movie because they're still young. Like, they could see each other again.
Yeah.
But the second time she saw her was at the orchestra.
Yes.
They sat across from each other.
In the balcony.
But Heloise did not see her.
No.
She only saw her. She only saw Heloise. And it was for what? It was for Marianne's favorite piece.
Yes.
The piece that she played for her when she fell in love with her. It's canon, because it's how it ends also, okay?
Yes.
And then the movie ends.
Because you can just tell, like, Heloise is just, like, so impacted by, like, the music and the memory of Marianne.
The last
and like,
2 minutes of the movie is
just zooming
a
in.
shot of Heloise listening to this piece, and the girl goes through every single emotion.
Yeah, from, like, she's, like, enjoying it, and then she's, like, her eyes are shut, and she's just, like, feeling it, and then she starts tearing up,
and then
I'm
she
like...
starts laughing, and then she starts crying, and then it ends.
And then the end.
Yes.
So that was A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I liked it.
Did you like it?
I did.
I did too. I had a couple more little things to end with.
Oh, I did not. That was the
so
end.
I did. No, I do have a little bit more, and then I'll ask you like your rating and stuff.
Okay.
So, one thing I just wanted to point out was like the film. It like what makes it probably like kind of a rare thing is it has very minimal dialogue.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of words in this film for a 2-hour-long movie, and almost no score. Which I don't know if you realized it when you were watching. There's like no background music.
No, it's all
ever.
like sounds, like
It's
actual
very,
like background noises, like, the wind and.
It relies heavily on, I think, body language, tension, and just, like, emotional expression, which I think they did it very, very well. So that's hard to do, especially because we're so used when you watch a movie, there's, like, background music, there's a score. There is no score to speak of in this movie.
And a lot of times the characters show their emotion by talking and explaining,
But this is very much just, like, body language and, like, expressions, and did it very well.
Because, like, in that one scene when Marianne says that Heloise is angry, and then Heloise's face changes, and you can clearly see, like, her face just, like... No, and that's why, like, Adele is such a good actress.
I think they all do
they're all very good.
Yeah, but no, like, especially that end scene where she just has to sit there and the camera zooms in on her, and she's just supposed to go through all these emotions.
Yeah.
It was so good. It's like, you can see why this role was written for her.
Yes.
In mind. Like, she knew her that deeply to be able to, like, this is you. This is your role.
You know how to do this. Exactly.
And I have one more thing just from Celine, the director. So, according to her, one of the manifestos for the film was to get rid of the idea of a muse, which she considers to be a, quote, nice word that actually hides the participation of women in artistry. The muse is typically seen as a silent, fetishized woman who is inspiring just because she is beautiful. And even though for a long time women's opportunities in art were limited to modeling, she claims that the models were co-creating the art by being one of the brains in the room and helping to guide the artist. Her goal was to portray that and to make a love story and a creation dialogue with equality.
I do have one more thing.
Oh, okay.
Not written down. I'm gonna have to find it really quick.
Oh, you're good. That was all I have written down. Because I love that. Like, that was one of her goals for the film because she did it great.
So there is an article on Vanity Fair that was about this movie and about Celine and Adele's like work together, a little bit about the relationship. But I read through this article and it was just a really good article, and I may copy this link really quick and send it to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll post it in the notes.
Yeah. It's called, it's by Vanity, it's on vanityfair.com, and the article is titled Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the real-life love story behind the scorching film.
Okay. Love that. I'll have to read that.
I was like, you got a text message, and I was like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, sure.
That's me, I did that.
Spell podcast. So I know who you are.
Yeah. If you guys are just now joining us and haven't listened to previous episodes, there's a time where I mentioned that Brittany, or I was saved in Brittany's phone as Skylar Work because we used to work together at the same retail store. And then, but she does have a picture for me.
I do.
Whereas mine is just Brittany, all lowercase, and there is no picture. It's just the letter B.
But now we don't work together, so I changed it to Skylar Podcast,
Yeah, so
just in case I forget her.
Yeah, so it's Skylar Podcast, but it's a continuous joke. It's a continuous running joke.
No, it's real life.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to forgive me if you tried.
I can try. We'll make it a video. Can I forget Skylar?
Brittany tries to forget Skylar.
And then I guess my only other thing, which I meant to mention when you were doing the ratings, because you said it was like an 8.1 on IMDb, 97 on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's also a 92 audience on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
Which is very
good,
rare, because it's very rare that the critics and the audience are so close, especially in the 90s. So watch it. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a really good film. And like I said, it was nominated for like 36 different awards and won like a ridiculous amount as well. Like, I just took note of the Queer Palm at Cannes because I really liked that it was...
I had that also, yeah.
I was like, I liked that it was the first, like...
The win directed by a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like 2 hours, like, yeah, it seems like a lot, but it actually went by really fast, I thought. For, like, minimal dialogue. Like, it was just, I don't know, it was so gorgeously shot. Like, every shot is, like, a work of art. Like, the colors are so good. Their accents are so good. The actresses are so good. Like...
I think it took me from noon to 5 this evening to finish it because I watched it while I was at work. So I kept having to pause it. And I was like trying to take notes on my phone. So I had the Google Docs open with the Hulu. So like I was actually able to take notes and listen at the same time. So I was like able to like write stuff down without having to read the captions. I was like, oh, this is what they're doing right now. But it also helped that there wasn't a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, there wasn't. But my French was so rusty. I wanted to make sure I could read the subtitles.
But yeah, I was literally had the Google Docs open. It was just like... Da, 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 da. Gosh. While I was at work today.
Well, what's your rating?
9 out of 10.
Honestly, I could go to 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that often, but I don't think there's anything I would change about it. If I gotta be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it's very bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very realistic.
Yeah, because sometimes...
And it's, especially for the time.
Things don't work out.
Especially for the time. But it's still, I like the little nods of, like, the page 28 and the painting, and then also still being very moved, obviously, by her favorite score. Like, it's still there. Like, the love is still there, but it's just unrealistic that they end up together, so I wouldn't change that either, because that doesn't exist. That's a fairy tale.
Yeah, I like when things are realistic like that. Like, not everyone gets to have a happy ending.
Yeah, and they're still happy. Like,
yeah.
clearly, like, she
Yeah.
has a daughter who looked very cute in the painting, and she is teaching young girls to paint, which that in of itself is like a revelation, because, yeah.
I don't mean like happy ending as in
No,
like,
no,
but like happy, it's not like you're happily
Like
ever
the couple,
after.
yeah.
You don't, not everyone gets the happily ever after together, because sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah, they had their 5 days, and that seems to have lasted them a long time, at least in their minds, and so yeah. I
It's
think
like they
great.
clearly still care for each other, and it was like...
Yeah. I love Bittersweet, and it didn't make me cry, which going into it, I thought it might, but it actually didn't, so it was still, it's not sad, it's just, it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just very beautiful.
This is very beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't watched it, well, spoiler warning, like for the whole movie, if you haven't watched
I think
it.
they know that by now. Please.
But if you haven't watched it, definitely check it out. Like, it was really, really good.
Even though we just talked about it, seeing it is still something.
Yeah, seeing it is different.
Especially if you like arty stuff, like it is very gorgeously shot.
And like you didn't get to see the cinematography that we got to see.
It's very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, shall we spin?
Let's.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we'll be back with true crime.
Woo!
And the drink will be Brittany's choice again.
Woo! Okay.
So yeah, that'll be...
That's a choice.
That's a choice. No idea what I'm going to do.
There is lots of choices.
Yeah, there are a lot of choices, unfortunately.
Hopefully it won't be too grim, but if it is, we'll get through it together.
Yeah. Always we do put proper disclaimers for any trigger warnings ahead of time, but before the case starts. And of course, as our podcast goes, we don't laugh because it's funny, we just get uncomfortable.
Yep. And if true crime's not your thing, that's cool. You can catch us next week, because the week after it will not be true crime again, because we never do it twice in a row.
Nope.
Because also, we don't want to do that.
No. And I think that is one of the big reasons we started spinning again when it was 2 in a row, because we did not want to have to do true crime 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Because we don't like it either.
Yeah. It's really bleak.
Makes us sad.
Although the last one I did was kind of fun. It was the girl who had the lover in her attic.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
I don't even remember what I talked about last time. But I don't think mine was nearly...
I don't think yours are ever fun.
No, I always... like,
I've done the animals.
Yeah, the animals.
I have a good time every now and then.
And I talk about an 8-year-old kid being abused and murdered and tortured by his mom and her boyfriend. And then I cried while I talked about it, so...
And you also did the toy box, which is another sucky one.
Yeah.
Skylar really brings the bum.
Yeah. And then I talked about, Sylvia, who was abused and tortured by her foster family.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, so I pick really, really awful ones.
So if that sounds fun, catch us next week.
Yeah, so, take it away, Skylar. How do I do this?
If you want.
Yes, if you would like to find us as a collective, you can find us at Sip and Spin Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube. If you would like to email us, you can email us at sipandspinpod@gmail.com. If you'd like to find Brittany, her ats are Whimsy Dream or Whimsy Dreams. And if you would like to find me, I'm Gleam YKS on everything. But as always, the 3 link trees will be down in the description below.
Yes, and we thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening to this movie with us.
Yeah, and once again, if it sounds interesting, definitely go watch it. It's on Hulu right now. It was good. It's worth it. And we'll sip with you next week.
Bye!